So welcome, Jess.
Thank you. Great to be here, Karen.
I know we've been trying to do this for so long, but
we have a bit of avoiding on my part, to be honest. But we're here. I'm normally on the other side of the podcasting, doing the interviewing, not being the guest. I was like, okay, now I know why people get a bit edgy beforehand.
I hope you're not avoiding because you don't want to talk to me.
No. It's just like that. You go through these phases, I think, where you question yourself, imposter syndrome. Anyone who started a business would know what that's like. But yeah, I think we go through peaks and troughs with it, and different life situations can make that flare at different times, I think. But it's good to be out here doing this, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm glad you're here, but I'm glad you mentioned that too, because people feel imposter syndrome and they think they see other people doing successful things or what they perceive to be successful things, and they think, oh, they don't have imposter syndrome. They've just got their shit together. Off they go, they're doing it. But that couldn't be further from the truth. And it doesn't matter how great your business is, you're going to experience moments of, or a lot of moments of imposter syndrome. So I'm so glad you mentioned it. It's and we shouldn't let it stop us.
Yeah, and I think because we see, like everyone knows this, but we're showing a filtered version of our businesses on the external. Like, you can see our pictures here, and our morning here at home this morning was not smooth by any means. Like it was a bad morning in the house. And it's like, okay, but like my husband said to me, this is bad morning for your podcast. I'm like, you know what, this is what it is. This is what business is. This is what life is. You do it in all of this stuff that goes on. But yeah, I think, imposter syndrome, it's an interesting one. I don't think I used to feel it when I was younger. I felt it more as I've got older, which is a funny thing.
No, I think that happens. I'm just thinking about my banner here, and it's a bit dark here. It's very, very cold today, and it's very grey. But I that's exactly why I put this banner up. It's not to promote me. It's so that it hides the shit behind there.
I'm like, we need to get some banners to hide all this, like pretend life behind me doesn't happen. But
Oh, yours is clean, yeah. Anyway, now I'll tell you what, hey?
My husband cleaned his desk up.
Yeah, blame someone else. I love it. Now, just in the intro, I mean, look, I've got a lot of admiration for you. You might have imposter syndrome, but I've got a lot of admiration for what you do, because it is a success story, and it's not, hasn't been like, oh, Jessie's born with a silver spoon in her mouth and with all the answers, and there she goes, there she's got her grandson. Like, is born from a lot of bloody hardship, a lot of hardship. So I've got huge admiration for your, resilience and persistence in particular, to push through that. So I love it. But, it's, you've got the Grants Hub, and you've also, so you founded the Grants Hub, but you also founded Hey Good Thing.
Yes.
Now, both of those things, they're entrepreneurial. It's like, how can I be an entrepreneur? But there's a big a theme of helping people, really serving people, helping people get the best of it. So I want to come back to the helping people in a minute. But first of all, where did you get this entrepreneurial streak from?
I mean, I don't know if I was born with it, or like I first realized that look, I didn't even use the word entrepreneur. I hadn't even thought of the word entrepreneur until women in Gippsland actually interviewed me for a Facebook post they were doing. And it was actually Kelly Kuchu who said to me, you're an entrepreneur. So that was the first person who ever, and I was like, oh, entrepreneur. But then since then, I'm like, actually, maybe I am. Like, I do see a problem and solve it through business primarily. So I guess that is the definition of entrepreneurship, really. And it was Kelly that said it's born from need. So back in high school, I fell in love with French, like learning the French language. Like most people hate languages. I love it. And I had this amazing French teacher in year 9, and she had been an interpreter at the Winter Olympics in Japanese and French. And I just thought it was incredible, like just taking me out of my small Gippsland world and going, hey, there's a whole world out there of things that you can do. And so she said to me, you should be an exchange student, like do it. So I got my heart set on that. But, we never wanted as children, but my parents, they gave a lot, like volunteered for years on end. And we didn't have all this extra money just sitting around to go, oh yeah, sure, go on an $8,000 exchange for 12 months. I'm sure now it's a lot more expensive, but they said, if you want to do it, like we'll go halves. So you earn half and I'll earn half. So this was back in makes me sound old, but this is in the 1990s, mid 1990s. So I earned $4,000. So I would come home from school every day in year 9 and I would bake biscuits and package them and sell them. And I would make chocolate coated snakes and sell them in the school locker. I think that's mentioned in the intro. And then the canteen shut me and another friend who's also a very successful entrepreneur now. We were both selling these like chocolate coated snakes from our lockers before the school canteen shut us down. And I just saw like this goal and something I wanted to achieve. And I'm like, I need to get the money to get there. How will I get it? And I was too young to work in proper jobs. So business was just a means to an end, really. And I could see that business and earning money that way could solve the problem that I had.
Wow. I don't know too many people at 14 are doing all that sort of stuff. Thousands of bacon, thousands of cookies. I do like the chocolate snakes idea, though.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah, they could make a comeback, I think. But yeah. There'd be a few more food safety handling procedures now that you probably have to follow than back then. But yeah, it was good. But it gave me such purpose and drive. And like I was thriving on it. And then so halfway through years 11, I wanted to go the year before. And I thought my parents were crazy for not letting me go when I was 14 for 12 months to the other side of the world. But they made me wait a year, which was a good decision. So I went halfway through year 11. I was 15, spent 12 months in Belgium with a host family, turned 16 over there, and then came back. So kind of lost a year of schooling, but gained so much from that. So just added on an extra year to high school.
Oh, I reckon you learn so much from traveling, way, way more than school. And anyway, speaking of traveling while you're doing school, you didn't even go back to school. Like, I mean, you did year 12, but around Australia, traveling around Australia.
Yes. Now my parents would tell very different versions of this story. So I got back and I went into school for 6 months. And because I'd missed that year, all my friends graduated from year 12. So I was in the year level below. So that was actually quite hard going back into that context. But then the school that I was at couldn't offer 3 of the 5 subjects that I wanted to do. And I was going to have to do distance education. Mum and dad would have paid for that on top of normal school fees. And I would have been spending a lot of time in the school library. So I can understand their decision to just go, why would we do that? When if you're doing distance education, we might as well do something different. I don't know what exactly triggered the trip around Australia. But it was in a camper van too. So we did it. So they left in the January. I was very dark on them. For the first 4 weeks, I really wasn't happy with them. And they ended up saying, you're with us. We're going for a year. You can choose to change your attitude or stay like this all year. So I'm like, okay, just did it. Just had to do it. And distance ed for year 12 while traveling around Australia in a wind up old 1980s pop top caravan with the beds that pull out the end.
I know the one. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, I don't like them at all. Well, I think they've got a lot better.
Oh, yeah, I wouldn't go back to one. But I think because of that, too much set up and packed down. But yeah, look, I think all of that in the end, it just builds resilience. It builds independence. What do you do? Like the school didn't have those subjects. So I can, you get faced with different things, just get on and do it. I think that's probably served me well, given some of the other adversity we've had, through our life.
Yeah, I agree. And I only went to up through the middle of Australia in one of those for about 4 weeks, and that was enough for me. There's no way I'd be doing a year. But I suppose you just had to change your attitude, or they might have left you on the side of the road.
Yeah, it was a bit like, come on, like, it was. I can't remember it. It was probably no doubt. We've helped you get to Belgium. You need to come back and play your part in the film. I can't remember it all, but it was probably something along those lines. But, So my 2 brothers and I, so there was me in year 12, my youngest brother, younger, was in year 11 and year 7. Oh,
God, all in one of those little jammed up. All right, that's not thrilling me too much. But anyway, but it's the adventure and it's being on the road. And I think that kind of learning is way better than the school environment. I do. And it builds so much resilience, but it also builds a kind of a compassion, an understanding of the people you meet and all that sort of stuff. And I believe you did some, went to Cambodia and Thailand as well in there somewhere.
Yes, actually, yeah. So I got back from Belgium in the mid-year. So I was back in school for 6 months, and then mum and dad before, like, this is an incredible thing to do as parents. And now my husband and I would love to do the same thing as this. Before we were making career decisions, they wanted us to get a developing world experience to like to like fuel some of that decision making and go, hey, there's a world out here like this. What careers do you want to have? And that doesn't mean you have to do something in that, but gives you some perspective, I think. So yeah, mum and dad took us over in that summer holidays to Cambodia for 4 weeks, to central Cambodia, worked, volunteered in a home for a whole centre for orphaned and abandoned kids. And there was development projects in a school and all sorts of things there. And then 3 weeks in Thailand with the same organisation, but in Thailand. And like that, honestly, that's been a life changer. So like there's kind of these points in time. After that point, I couldn't get that out of my mind. So I ended up studying international studies and then went on and did a Masters of International Development and worked in that space since then. And my parents went back. So they didn't complete the lap around Australia. They actually went over to Cambodia because there was a need for on-site managers. So they moved over there with my 2 brothers who continued their online learning. Well, online sounds, there was hardly internet back then. Distance education. They did years, my brother did year 12 and then year 8 over there. And I completed my VCE exams with another family who I stayed with in Gippsland. And yeah, that was incredible though. And I went back and forwards over there for a few times over that year and ended up working with that organization myself as well. So like landed in Sri Lanka after the tsunamis that happened. You would remember those. So as part of being with that organization, I was in Sri Lanka 4 weeks after that tsunami had hit, and the Andaman Islands in India, and visiting people still living in tents, like as refugees, people that had, like, I'll never forget this one guy who had been clinging onto his little brother around a tree when the waves were all coming in, and he couldn't keep holding him. So like sitting there, seeing that when you're in your young 20s, and then thinking, like, what is life about? Like, what is life about? What is my life about? What do I want it to be about? You know, like they're those things that you can't plan to be in those situations, but you can land in things just by all these different turns of events that can happen in your life. And I think they're so impactful in what we do and the decisions we make.
Oh, wow. And that really makes you think, what can I offer this world? Do you know? And I think when you see stuff like that, it gives you more drive to do it. You know, you're kind of like, I don't care what my skills are. I must have something in here. Do you know, know that I can give. So
and I think everyone does. Everyone has something. Like for me, that's business. And I found that along the way. But, you know, for everyone has something that they have to offer the world that's unique just to them and so special just to them.
I agree. And I agree with you that sometimes we can't find it. Sometimes we don't know what it is until we're in a situation, you know, that gives us the opportunity to unlock it. And half the time we unlock it without knowing we are. We're just because we're just there and we're just doing, you know. So how did all that lead you to, like you said, you worked with international aid, sort of, you know, that's
aid development.
How did that turn into grants, like a passion for grants?
I know some people choose grants and land in business. I kind of probably chose business and landed in grants, or at that point chose international development and landed in grants. So when you work in that context, you would know this from one classrooms, you have to apply for grant funding. It's part of it. You have to find funding one way. So for me, it was this eye-opener of going, there's people with money here who either want or have to give the money away, and there's people over here who need it. So grants is one way that those two things are brought together. I can write, and I can do maths, so you kind of end up being the person who does a bit of the grant writing. So I landed in it that way and did that in an international setting for a little bit before moving across to local government in Melbourne, so at the city of Casey. And that was a great job there that I landed in. So it was this shift across to the Australian grants context, applying for state and federal government grant programs, the really big ones, like multi-million-dollar ones for youth programs or swimming pools or whatever it is. This was major learning on the job, like full credit to the person who hired me and put faith that I could learn stuff quickly, because I hadn't done that before. But he was like, you can learn this. There's these people that stand out through your life that really make a huge difference. And, you know, that was a big game changer, that one. The other part of that job was training the community in how to find and apply for grants. So that local government, City of Casey, it's huge. And there are more community groups in need of money than what their community grants program can fund. So they wanted this capacity building role. to train community groups up. And that's where I saw the need for the Grants Hub. So I've kind of landed in grants in different ways. And I just thought there has to be an easier way to find grant funding than trawling through hundreds of pages of a PDF, or there needs to be something a bit fresher than just lines on screens. Like we could make visual elements, we could make it more interactive. You know, back then there was nothing else around like that. So again, saw the need. We were living in regional Victoria. There wasn't jobs for international development. So created a solution for myself.
I love that. Absolutely love that. But what was it that made you? I know, I understand it. You're going, there's people here, there's this, you know, people got it, people need it. There's not a good system. But what was it that I know you're saying, you know, and this is probably all your background in traveling and, you know, creating solutions and that kind of stuff. What made you just go, I'm going to build it myself? Because when you're working in a government, you know, particularly in LGA, that sort of stuff, it's kind of like big bickies, big buckets. Do you know, you know what I mean? And it's sort of a little bit intimidating for you to be an individual and go, oh, I'm going to do better than that. You know, I'm going to do bigger than that. So what was there a particular incident or anything like that when you said, this sucks, I'm just going to go build this thing?
Look, I love creating. So I know for a lot of people, starting something is the hardest part. That's like a really easy part for me. So I I've had to learn to manage that. Like, don't start too many things.
Me too.
Yeah. So, you know, everyone has different sticking points where they get with the business journey. For me, coming up with ideas, like all day, every day, I come up with ideas, solutions for problems. Like I just, you know, maybe we need to collaborate. I've always thought it would be cool. This is another idea. Maybe we can join on this, like some ideas hub, like people could actually just pay for the idea. Like I can't do all the ideas I have.
I thought of that.
No, maybe we need to do it together.
I said, I need to run a business. It's called the Ideas Business, and just start selling all my ideas.
Let's do it, Karen. Sounds like we've got a plan. It's like, man. But yeah, so the ideas just flow. But look, I did have to resign from that position. It's not like they paid me to do it. It takes a step of faith to get out there and do it. But I was running this grants list. So to help these community groups find grants, I'm like, the most efficient use of my time is if I can compile the grants that are relevant and send them out an email list. So I would just run it in Word. Like I would just find all the grants, make this Word document, email it out, started a list. And I'm like, there needs to be a better solution than this. And then I was on maternity leave, I think, with my daughter when I started the build of the Grants Hub, and then, resigned and did that. So I can't build, I'm not a coder, but my brother is web designer back then, and he knew someone who was a developer. So it was just that three of us combination that launched it and built it.
Yeah. And you make it sound like easy. And then we just launched it. And it's kind of like, people are probably imagining, you know, and she's saved 50 grand from a lovely little, Shire council job.
Oh, yeah. Just sold like a lot of snakes to fund that.
Yeah, but the truth is you actually had to sell your house to build the website. I mean, that's a huge amount of faith, a huge amount.
And we were thinking about selling it and moving. So I was in Warragul then, so moving, I don't know where all your listeners are based, but kind of in regional Victoria, and then moving into the southeastern suburbs of Melbourne, just for a bit of a change. Yeah. So we were thinking about selling the house, and then I had this idea, and it's like, hey, let's just sell the house. Let's just sell the house and use that money. It was less than $20,000 that we had. So we just put that into the build and took a risk. Like we were still young enough that if it didn't work, we were willing to do that. It wasn't like we were later in life and didn't have spare cash, like we were in how old was I? 28, I think. So I had time to play. Time was on our side, I guess. But yeah, and I think you just have to go with your gut. Like I think it was a gut thing. There's a need. I know there's thousands of community groups that need this. I know grants. I know that space. I've done workshops. I know people need this product. Let's put it out there. And I surveyed people, and you do as much of that as you can to a point. You don't want to get, I don't over research, because I think you can get really stuck in that. But just put out an MVP, like a minimum viable product, and see what happens with it.
Yeah. So everyone's listening, and all my listeners are from all around the world too, by the way. But they will still understand we're talking about Australia.
South of Australia, southeast coast of Australia.
Yeah. But it's you're still making it sound easy, and we'll just sell the house, and we're 20 grand, we'll just blow it, and you know what, take a risk and everything else. Now it gets a bit deeper here because you did actually launch it, and then this, I think you're a bit. I think you probably should check into anyway. I think you're mad actually, because you're only 39 weeks pregnant.
Yes.
And
true story.
With the tiniest little gap window to go, and you launch. You launch a business that you're just throwing all your risk at, like with 3 weeks to go before a kid's on here as well, and That's
so
madness.
like, firstly, this was the first proper business I'd run. So I didn't have the experience to realize how much work this business was going to be. Had I known that, it wouldn't have happened. But, my daughter, so I had my daughter, she was 23 months, she was nearly 2. No dig to web developers here, but they have a really good reputation for running late for a reason. Like, they run late on development. They would be the first people to say that. But so the developer that I was working with, he worked a full-time job and was doing this on top. But it was just delay. That's how it goes. That's how project management goes. That is very normal in online tech-based businesses. We plan for delays. When I had a time frame in terms of having a baby, like a second baby, that's not a movable time. That's not a movable deadline. So I'm like, if this isn't, like, it just got later and later, and it wasn't meant to be launched when I was 39 weeks pregnant. My daughter was overdue by 2 weeks, and I was still induced. So I was banking on another 1 or 2 weeks. And it was 39. I was 39 weeks pregnant when their grandson ended up going live. I'm like, it's now, I need to do it now, because it'll be much more difficult later. And that's without knowing what was to come next. Speaking
of what does come next, like it's already sort of, so you've kind of already made your own decision. You're in a little bit of control, apart from the web developer being late, but you're sort of saying, well, this is my decision, and I'm still going to run with it and everything else. However, sometimes life throws you curveballs, and 11 days after your son was born, so the grandsub's brand new.
So the grandsub's only 1 week older than my son. So if the grandsub's 9, which we just turned 9, my son just turned 9. Like, they're 1 week apart, pretty much, their birthdays.
So not only are you stressing because I'm going to have this baby, I've just launched a brand new baby business, and now I'm have my baby, and then not even 2 weeks after he's born, he's open heart surgery. Wow.
Yeah, so diagnosed. Yeah, so diagnosed with diagnosed with congenital heart disease when he was 10 days old. So he got sick with bronchiolitis and RSV. We had no idea. Obviously, I'm crazy to launch a business then, but not crazy enough to do it if I'd known he had a heart condition. That would be sheer madness. Like, don't do it.
Don't do it, anybody. Don't
even launch a business at 39 weeks, but definitely don't do it if, there's a chance your child has a serious medical condition. So he got diagnosed with this really serious heart condition. Like, I'm happy if anyone wants to ask me more details about that, happy to share. It won't mean much to most people, but it was, it's like you operate. So the surgeon said to us in the end, here's your waiver form. We operate or the baby dies. Like, literally those words. So, it wasn't this like, oh, maybe we could wait a little bit. So he got diagnosed. We spent a couple of weeks in hospital, and like, I'm trying to run my grandsub. Like, I've got a 23-month-old daughter. I've got a brand new business. I'm pretty new to this sort of business. And I'm literally there with this baby who's plugged into everything. And I listened to Jason from Super Teas. He's amazing. I've met him in person. I listened to the episode that you did with him, and the tubes and the lines, and like, there's such a huge need for his product, just to put a little plug in here for him. But, we were in that situation. So you're thrown into this medical world that you don't know anything about. You're just passed in. I was learning the medical world full stop. We had no medical background in terms of that. So I'm learning the grants hub. I'm learning how to process payments and deal with online credit card collections and all of this at the same time as literally my baby is in this crib waiting for his open heart surgery. So he ended up with emergency open heart surgery. So they call it, if it's like planned on a certain date, they call that elective. We know it's not optional. It doesn't mean it's optional, but he ended up crashing really quickly. You can't really get any closer to the line than what he got. So the scenes you see in the movies of a child getting rushed down the corridor, that was us with him in the end.
Wow.
And the surgeons and the cardiology team gave us, they said very clearly, we don't know if he will survive this. So getting anaesthetized is really risky, particularly with this level, like at the point where his heart was at. So look, it's a miracle that he is alive, like for so many reasons. Like it's a miracle that he got bronchiolitis and RSV and that we found the heart murmur. It's a miracle that they did this last minute echocardiogram, like an ultrasound of the heart, the night that they did it, because that wouldn't have normally happened. And that alerted them that this was like now or nothing. So he survived that. That was a very, very long day. And then
I think so.
It was, there's a few moments that are really like what we would count as trauma, like they're traumas. So there's like certain days, there's probably about 3 certain points that were very traumatic. Like it's all hard, but you get the trauma moments and they really cause a lot of damage longer term. You run on adrenaline at the time. And so it's okay because you have to do it. It's later that the trauma kicks in. Well, that was our experience at least, but
absolutely. And
so then just running the Grants Hub from the ICU ward while he was recovering and he's still intubated, like tubes were still in, like it was madness. But we had paying customers. Like I already had paying customers. So now with more experience, and I think post-COVID people are a lot more forgiving and understanding of life situations, but back then I just felt this obligation to keep it going. Like I was too worried about what people would, this is crazy now that I look back on it, but I was too worried back then to let people know this is what's going on. Can I like extend your payment plan or whatever? Everyone would have said yes. Like, of course they wouldn't have minded, but on the flip side, it gave me a focus. And I think it stopped me falling into this complete like world of struggling and not coping. So
probably was good to keep that focus, but it's because most people would have just given up. Like most people said, well, I just can't do it. But so there's another credit to your resilience, like it's amazing. But you talked in there about the longer term effects, and you had fibromyalgia and PTSD, and your son's got some ongoing
anxiety and other that's ongoing.
And so that's, I think we overlook the fact that kind of stuff that makes us sick. I think we've got to. I think some of us say, well, it's just stressful for a while, and yes, we can handle, like shots of stress, but when it's at that degree for so long, it really does make us sick, and we're not very good at self-care. Not that there's much opportunity for you to be sitting in a corner doing yoga, when all that was happening, but it's can really take us down. How did you get over that? How did you get over that, or how do you manage it if you still have some of that?
So I was actually fine for 2 years. So the first 2 years of his life were really awful. It was, so he had his first open heart at 4 weeks of age, and they said to us he'll go downhill. Like the cardiologist at the outset said your first 5 years of life will be crap. She used other words. I don't know what the rating is on your podcast. She was like, your first 5 years will be shit, and if you can get through those, you'll be okay. So we knew we were in for a longer haul here. So for us, it was the first 2 years. So after his surgery, he would just decline. And he needed his second open heart surgery when he was 7 months old. So this is this it's this awful, it's not just the surgeries that are hard. Like it's this decline. So for him, it's, people ask what it's like. Well, they're going into heart failure. So you're actually watching your child go into heart failure. So as a tiny baby, that means you're waiting for them to get sweaty when they're breastfeeding. You're waiting for them to start getting a bit limp. You're waiting for them to lose color. You're watching their work of breathing, which is like, how hard are they breathing? You're thinking, every time they sleep this tiny bit longer than they normally wake up, I would literally go in there expecting to do CPR. Like it's like, has he died? We don't know. It's a possibility. Like it's living with that all the time. So after that second surgery, it's nearly a relief to get the surgery. Like it's a hard period, but the decline is awful. So then he's been more stable since then. He kind of hit stable at about the age of 2. So that's when all of my stuff kicked in. So I was fine before that. Like honestly, running the Grants Hub was okay, kept the family going, with my husband as well. I've got a great partner, the older daughter as well. It was a lot, but it wasn't the impacts of PTSD that had kicked in by that point. It was when our son had his first appointment where he hadn't gone downhill, but at about 2, that's when it kicked in. So it was like my body went, oh.
Yeah, that's what they say. We can hold it together, when there's something, and then, but when we let go, it lets go.
Yeah.
Really. Like when you go on holidays, they say, don't just crash the first day because you'll get sick. You really
so true.
Yeah.
And I'm not like, I've had to work on accepting this a lot because it's not like, I'm so much like, that resilience is great, that quality that I've got, but it can be the other side where I don't look after myself. I brush things off and it's like, I'm fine. This is ridiculous. This isn't PTSD. Like, that's not a panic attack. That's not anxiety. It's like, actually it was like, when you have a health psychologist tell you that's called PTSD, it's nearly easier to just name it, I think, because it is what it is. And that's been a huge learning for us. And that they're the things that I would never change about going through these circumstances, is it gives you so much more probably self-compassion and compassion for other people going through this. It's not just the person who may be sick. It might be the people connected to them, or it's, what does PTSD look like? What does it mean to have a panic attack? Like that stuff, when you experience it, it's awful. No one would want to do it. But yeah, it's been good to learn more about that side of life, if you want to put a positive spin on it. But it does sit there. Fibromyalgia, things like that, they sit there. You have to learn to manage that longer term.
I think that's it's all very well to say, well, they sit there and that's what it is, but I don't, self-care is a bit hard, and that. Now you're a bit younger than me. My age, we're worse. It's weak to admit that there's something wrong. It's weak to admit that you're not, you're not tough, and it's taken me to my late 50s to actually say, oh shit, something's wrong. And so you're a little bit better at it, but we don't do self-care well enough. Like none of us do self-care well enough. And I love that you're talking about all this, because, people might see the Grants Hub and see Jessie and smiling, and it's kind of like, oh, she's got her shit together. But it's so good to see it's not, I wish you had a different story.
Oh, I know you mean. No. But
it's so good to see that what sits behind these successful businesses. It's not perfect, and I think that we have this, anyone who wants to start a business has this fear that, I just need to get it right. I need to do it right. And I need to look, well, all these other people don't have problems, but all these other people do have problems. And you just got to get moving on it, because life goes. Life disappears whether you want it to or not. So might as well do something. Now, you've grown this to over 2,000 members. And I think it was 28,000 plus network.
Yes, I checked that recently. Yeah, before I gave you those numbers, and that was a couple of weeks. Yeah, a week or two ago. Yeah. That's not me. There's a team behind this. So I founded it. We've got a team. I'm not taking full credit to those numbers, but yes, the original. Yeah, that's where it's at now. It's good.
Well, you should. I get that you've got a team, but you should take full credit, because you actually, if it wasn't for you, it wasn't for you getting off the bench and like backing yourself, But that's a lot of people. Like it's clearly saying that, when you said before that there's a need, that this minimal viable product, and there's people out there who need it. That's evidenced. If you got 2,000 members, that's 2,000 plus the 28,000 that are kicking about going, I need this, I need this, I need this. So it's you know, sometimes we stop ourselves because there's fear of failure or self-doubt, or, you know, who's going to want to buy from me? Who's, you know, like, what if I fail? And what if there's no one out there? But I reckon we've got to take a chance, because I think if you've got an idea, there's always going to be someone out there. And whether there's enough people, I don't know, but give it a crack. Like,
like if you see a need for it, that means someone else is going to have a need for it.
Exactly.
You know, like if you can see that could be improved in that way, then it probably can be. And maybe you're the person to do it. Like, just get out there and do it. There's so many things that can be solved still. And I think there's still so many ways to improve products or experiences or relationships or connections. There's so many things that can be done. And if you love starting things or doing things, just go and do it. Because you know, like, life does get away. And I was going to say, you don't know what's around the corner and what's next. If I'd known, I wouldn't. The irony is I wouldn't have done it, but I'm glad I did. If I hadn't launched it then, I really don't think it would have existed today still, the Grants Hub. But because it would have just, I don't know when I would have done it then. Like, that would be crazy. I think I'd be the true definition of crazy if I'd launched it after that, knowing everything that was sitting there. I don't know. I really don't know what I would have done. That didn't happen. But you know, for people that sit there and wonder, should I, shouldn't I? It's like, just do it. Like, if you've got the resources or the time or the situation, make the time or make the resources if you can, and just do it.
Yeah. And you don't always have to start big. That's the other thing too. But I don't have 20,000. I don't have 100,000. No, but if you got $500 that you can kick the bloody thing off with, do it. Start somewhere. Now, if you, what about a few myths about funding? Because I know a few, but I'm not a not-for-profit. I'm a business, and nobody's going to give business money. Like, can you give a few of these myths a little bit of a boot in the bum?
Sure. Do you want to fire away questions, Karen, or you want me just to bust some?
Well, bust that one first, because I hear that one often. Now you just bust 3 or 4 for us, just because I want people to embrace grants, you know, rather than be fearful of them. So
so the business versus not-for-profit. Okay, let's start with that one. There are grants for both, but they're very different pools of money, nearly always. So most not-for-profit money will come from people that either need or want to do good, need to give their money away for, let's not sugarcoat it, tax purposes or to meet their ESGs, whatever it is. Or they want to do it because they're philanthropic by nature. They may have made a lot or a little bit of money. We see people doing both. And they want to do it. So they've got, regardless of why, they've got the money. So if you're a not-for-profit, generally they'll choose to give the money to you. Sometimes social enterprises is this new kind of kid on the block, particularly in Australia. So we see them getting funded by both sides of the coin at the moment. But if you've got tax deductibility status, or in America, yours is slightly different, whichever listeners are, you know, from there, but they know who they are. So either way, the systems across countries are nearly always the same. If you've got the tax deductibility status for your equivalent country, then you'll be eligible to get quite a lot of grants. If you don't have it, there are still grants. There's just a few less for you. For business, your funding primarily would come from governments who want to support business, because that bigger picture, that's good for the economy. So thriving business is good for countries in general. So that's why government will fund business. But we do see some corporates funding businesses, particularly entrepreneurs, social entrepreneurs, anything along those lines, sustainability projects. The second one probably is, this is like nearly a reverse myth, but people will say there is money, there's grants for everything. Like, just go get a grant for that. That's not always true. So try and do things like your electricity bills, your wages. They're really difficult to get grants for. So if you do fundraising or you get donations from wills and bequests, whatever it might be, put any money you can that is not tagged, put that to your operational costs and try and get grants for your other stuff. They're probably two of the really big ones. And I think maybe the third one is, often people think that their application won't be good enough, or they have to be a professional grant writer, or they won't put themselves out there. But if you really read the criteria, and if you're eligible, and if you answer the questions and you meet all the requirements, you've got just as much chance as the next person. So don't forget that. Just, put yourselves out there and do it.
I think that is one of the biggest ones, is that people think, I don't know how to write grants, you know, and I'm just a me. Do you know? And all these people who write grants they're professional at it. You know, they do that. But you know, I think there's no like if you're reading it, you're going to say, well, that tells me what I need to know, or it doesn't tell me what I need to know, regardless of where it came from. So.
Yeah, and I think if you're matching yourself to the funder, so I'm about to run a webinar for people. We ran a grant recently through the Grants Hub and gave away 10 $1,000 grants. We had 644 people apply. So they put themselves out there and did it. But it was like amazingly strong applications, but also the reminder that some basics, if people get right, that's going to give your application a greater chance of success. So like, firstly, know the funder, like do your research and match your application to the funder's tone of voice, or what are they interested in, or like don't go something left field that you've never heard them fund before or that doesn't line up. To know who you are and make sure you've got all your ducks in a row, like make sure your website's working if you put your URL in. Add some social media pages if you've got them, like any click-throughs or YouTube videos, whatever it is. Make it easy for a funder to learn about you. And then I would say the pitch and the ask. So the pitch is like your elevator pitch. So for anyone in business or a not-for-profit, your 30 seconds that you've got in an elevator, or 20 seconds, whatever it is, get that down as short as you can. Make it 10-second pitch and put that as the first thing that you put in your grant application. Because the application is just trying to get the funder more interested in you and wanting to learn more about you and ask you more questions. It's like the introduction, like, hey, these people are interesting, they're doing cool stuff. Like, nail that pitch. Don't start with, in 1989, I saw a horse. Like, don't, you know, like whatever it is, make your pitch really good. And then the ask, be really strong and clear about what you want the money for and how the funder will make a difference to that. And without them, this won't happen. You know, you might put in numbers. You might say 643 families will be directly impacted by this by receiving a food voucher. You know, whatever it is, make it specific and put a really strong, clear ask in there.
Yeah, and I saw that. That's exactly one that did win one of your grants, and that really warmed my heart. You know, because that's a perfect example of. You can really see the outcome. You know, it's kind of not kind of like, oh, all these families will be fed for a while. You know, that doesn't mean anything. But you say 642, you wow, because you can start to imagine them. You know, and
that's it. Yep. Yeah. And you know, through that grant, like we had one who applied for the Grants Hub one, and it was 790. I can still tell you the number. It sticks in my head. I'm a bit of a numbers person probably, but 798 school kids now who wouldn't normally get lunch at school. We can help them get lunch. Yeah. Like that's with $1,000. Like that's a really small amount of money. Yeah. It can go a long way. Yeah.
Well, and you don't have to be an academic either to be writing it. You just really got to write from your heart, tell the truth, and be clear about it. And
and know your why. Like I think that's critical in business or not-for-profits, whatever it is, whether it's the work that you're doing, the business decisions, the grant applications that you're submitting, like know your why and make that really clear. Like if this is your why, put it front and center. Like this is why we exist. This is why we do what we do.
Yeah. I agree 100%. And your why is your motivator anyway. If you don't know why, you need to know it, because it's a thing that pushes you over the line. But and you've also got the podcast Grants Uncovered, so that gives a lot more information. Like that just gives tidbits constantly. And I think you've stopped. Are you about to start a new season or something?
I am, yes. So season 2 will be kicking off really soon. Yeah. So, and that will be some interviews and then some more grant tips and things like this. You know, what are the things that make your application really successful? So jump on that. It's Grants Uncovered. There's also, you know, a bunch of free grant resources on the Grants Hub's website, and I'm starting to put some more on my own, so jessieballantyne.com, just some more resources and like webinars or whatever it might be, just to help capacity build really in the grant space.
I love it. Well, guys, I hope you've been enjoying this and really now going to start applying for some grants and join the Grants Hub, because I'm part of it. So, and it's bloody fantastic. And there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of grants. In fact, probably thousands. And I haven't even got the time to look through them. It just, I scroll and I think, shit, there's so many grants. So there is tons and tons of grants out there. Now, you're a glutton for punishment. You said before, if I had known all this, I probably wouldn't have launched, the Grants Hub, and it's been hard. But I don't know if I believe you, because you are a sucker for this, because during COVID, this is a little bit different, but it's just showing who you are. You launched Hey Good Thing.
Yes.
As well. Like,
it's really new. Yeah.
I know. So tell us about that as well.
Yeah. So Hey Good Thing is for-purpose gift boxes. So it exclusively includes social enterprise, for-purpose, or B Corp certified products in gift boxes that get sent out all across Australia. So people can order them. That's heygoodthing.com.au. That's the website for it. But you can jump on there and see it. And it's yeah. So I launched that last year. I like new. So for me, the Grants Hub now is, well, last year it was 8 years old. We've just turned 9. But for me, that's a long time to be doing the same thing when I'm at like a fresh ideas kind of person.
Ideas person.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So look, the Grants Hub, there's a great team in there running it. So I'm involved still. I still do about a day and a half. Technically, I'm paid a day and a half a week. You know what that means as a business owner.
Yeah.
But yeah, look, there's team in there. But yeah, Hey Good Thing launched last year, and that's been fun. I wanted to try a physical product business, not just digital. And I think it's probably, to be honest, part of the imposter syndrome. Like, how much do I really know about business? Like, I know the online and I know what's worked at the Grants Hub, but moving that across to a different industry, like I didn't have any product-based experience or shipping things out or, you know, that side of business. So that's been another big steep learning curve. But yeah, it's cool. The stories behind those products are awesome. Yeah. I really wanted to help these people who have amazing products get them out more. So this was just one way that could possibly help with that. But yeah, that's a social enterprise, so totally for purpose business.
Love it. And they're not just good people who have got stories. They're doing good for the planet. You know, good for other people, good for poverty, good for water, good for the planet, good for the environment. You know, it's I think it's fantastic that you're doing that.
So, I'm just like the curator of the products. It's really the people doing it and then what they're doing with them. So there's Socks by Up Movement. They're funding prosthetic limbs in developing countries. There's Pargo Cups. So they fund water projects overseas. Freckly Faces. So that's Richard. People, if you jump onto the Hey Good Thing Instagram or anything, that's our highest selling product. So Richard's giant freckles. So he's a guy with autism who lost his work during COVID. And with his mum's help, so she's running the administration, he just started this business doing giant freckles, and it's taken off. Like, he's been on TV, he's been so successful with it. He's employed a friend with autism now. Like, it's super cool what he's doing. But there's products like that right across the board that are just amazing products. So to be able to bring them together into gift boxes, which was a solution I was looking for the Grants Hub for our team gifts.
Well, there you go. And it's good because, you know, we all do want to buy good things. You know, we all do want to, but when you're talking about curating it, it's so hard. You know, you're trying to think who's got what, where's, and you're trying to pull in stuff from everywhere. But if you're already making boxes, you know, you can. It's just so easy to pay you, pack them up, and you've got this good box of goodness. No, it's you know, because a lot of us don't have time to be you know, working out who's got what good things. You know, so Hey Good Thing, you know.
Yeah, so jump on. Yeah, people do it for birthdays or thank yous, or businesses have done it for gifting in particular, or team celebrations or team milestones. So it's been good. Yeah, there's all different customer types.
I think it's fantastic, and it's a bloody nice website too, and the products are great. So go and have a look. Now, before we finish up, I love. You kind of answered it before, but I'm just going to do it in one succinct question, and I like my get off the bench question. So you've started things with the odds stacked against you and made it happen. So there's going to be a lot of people out there with an idea going, I'll just wait for the perfect moment. What's the big bang you want to tell them?
There's no perfect moment.
No, there's not.
It just isn't. There is no perfect moment to launch or to do it. So yeah, I think you need to know your why. Like, and this is part of what I was saying before, you need to know your why, and you need to know why you're doing it. For me in business, that goes front and center all the time, whether that's in hiring decisions, business decisions, product improvements, giving, whatever it is. It's like the way we do work, you know, there's so much of it. We keep our why there, And for the grants hub, that's been the easiest way to find grants. For Hey Good Thing, it's about getting for purpose gift boxes out there and making a difference that way. But regardless of what it is, if you know your why, you'll work out how to make it work. And if you're passionate about doing it, just do it.
Just do it, because that year will pass whether you do it or not. And you want, I always say, in 1 year, will you be glad you did or wish you did? And I reckon I'd rather be glad I did. And
that's it. Now, you won't know. You don't know it all now, but you learn. You just keep on learning. And once you put it out there, sometimes it's easier to learn once it's launched, because you know what the problems are. Like, you know, the sticking points where you go, hey, that's not working in that part, let's fix it. And you get the feedback, and then you keep learning and keep improving it.
Yeah. And I know a lot of people who have launched business, and I mean a lot of people who have launched business, and every single one says the same thing. I didn't know. And what I know now, I definitely didn't know when I started. So it's, you know, everyone starts fresh. Now, by the way, Jess just talked about, you know, knowing your why. And I want to point out there is a fantastic blog that I'm going to put a link in that Jessie has written. And it's the 10 things I've learned from my whirlwind of a business, right? It certainly is a bloody whirlwind. And one of them is know your why and keep it front and center. And there's a whole lot of other things like take the leap, respond to issues quickly, you know, give, be real, resistance is a key, all that kind of stuff. So there's 10 really great learnings that Jessie's put in that blog. So go and have a look at that, because I just had a quick read before we got on it. It's bloody fantastic. It really opens up a few things and might just inspire you enough to kickstart your ideas. So, Jessie, I've absolutely loved this conversation.
It's been great. Yeah, thank you for having me.
That's my pleasure.
Make it happen.
Now, where can people find you? Because they're going to want to, I'm sure. I don't know where to start though, because now you just added jessieballantyne.com, and I didn't have that in my list. So
I was updating the website last week, as I do, but yeah, that was offline for a little bit. But jessieballantyne.com is where you would find me. And then there's Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook connected to that. So you can search me that way as well. On LinkedIn, you'd find me by that way. It's probably the easiest. Any of the businesses. So the Grants Hub is thegranthub.com.au, and all the socials are just at the Grants Hub. Hey Good Thing is heygoodthing.com.au. And again, all the handles for socials are just at Hey Good Thing. Straightforward.
Pretty easy. And I'm going to I'll put them all the links in, all the 300 links in the show notes, so anyone can find you. But, you know, like do connect with Jessie, because she's just a beautiful, beautiful human, and you're doing the most amazing stuff, Jess. I really, like I said at the very start, I've got great admiration for you. You know, you just, well, I've got great admiration for what you're doing anyway, but then when you put that backstory in it, you know, with it's just, man, you're one hell of a human. You really are. It's just.
You do. You know, life gives you lemons. Like everyone has them. Everyone has lemons, and I'm probably known best for this lemon that I've been given. There's a lot of other ones too, but not as big as this, but they happen, and everyone has them. And, you know, and they're different and hard for so many different reasons. This one is a lifelong one. This is not going away for us. This is a lifetime condition of repeated open heart surgeries. So I think, you know, learning to, So for me, it's like, this just keeps on going. We keep living with declines, and we're at that again now. You know, so it's cardiology and it's ongoing, but if we can't let life stop because those things happen, because they happen to everybody. So I think keep it going, like just do it regardless of what other stuff is there, because it might be the thing that actually helps you to get through it too and not fall in that slump. But like, reach out to me too. Like, I'd love to hear from people or stories, or if there's any ways that, you know, maybe we connect, or they've been through hard stuff too, like everyone has. But I think if we share our stories and maybe can help each other a bit, that's a good thing.
I agree. And I think because we often feel isolated or alone, and we're the only one going through it, but we're not. So no, I think that's absolutely beautiful. And I also like you saying, you know, when you're going through that, you need something else to focus on. You really do need something else to focus on.
You do.
So if your life's upside down, and I'm not going to say if your life's full of open heart surgeries, because that doesn't sound too bloody pleasant to me. But if you've got a lot of this stuff going on that you feel like, oh, you know, my whole life this is always happening. Well, maybe you do need to, even if it's just a candle making, but please use good environmentally, friendly candles, but you know, even if it's just something, please do it. Please do it. But Jessie, I've loved this. Thank you so very much for joining us.
Thank you.
I've just absolutely loved it. So one day I'm going to catch up with you in Gippsland.
That would be great. Yeah, we can swap business ideas.
Yeah, we have to get our ideas business off the ground. Anyway, it's been fantastic.
Thanks, Karen.
Thanks heaps, Jess.
See you later. Bye.
See ya.